So I got my concordance right here in my hand. I got my Schofield reference over there on my table if I need it. And I got my Septuagint right here. So we're going to see what we can't uncover, discover, possibly recover. So, and get rid of. That's right. To render waste. So, what I'm thinking about is this. As I come into the review and then the overview for this next part, two things we're going to do differently. One, I'm still going to carry on with like some kind of like picturesque thing. Not with this little segment so much so, but going forward, yes. I want to do something like I would like for like somebody who's like, hey, I've been reading this chapter for however long. I would like for you to break down the entire chapter. I'll do that. I have nothing better to do than to put this thing right here to work and make it work. So we're gonna pick off in Genesis chapter 5, and we're gonna go from there. I'm not gonna go back. I'm going to tell you verbally what happens up until Genesis chapter 5, and then I'm going to go forward from here. I'm not going to read per se too much, but I'm going to stress the points that I need to stress. Here we are. Chapter 1 of Genesis is the creation. It is the separation of what I understand that there is vast amounts of water everywhere, seemingly, because there was a division between the waters. So there was I don't know how much water, but it was a massive amount. That said, day and night are created, day and the night. Then the governor between the light and darkness, day and night. Then thereafter, the governing of the greater and the lesser light, the firmament of heaven, the stars in the firmament, the animals that are upon the earth, starting first with the things that come out of the water, and the reptiles therein, and the things that are on the land, the quadruped, things like that, and the reptiles also therein. And then you have the creation of these trees, these fruit trees that were obviously made or placed there, or a genetic happening of the planet because the way it was put together. So however you want to say it, it goes into thought that when these people were created, and the mentioning of soul constitution being throughout, and when I say soul constitution, I mean that they have a spirit of some sort, and their soul constitution, living soul, is my understanding the same type of soul constitution that the Adam man would be given. And the argument for this is because the trespasser penalty for an animal sleeping with a person is death for the animal also. So, and it's as if the animal knew what it was doing. You know, it's like accountability for the animal. You know, because it has sinned. You know, it's deep. So, when you think about these types of precepts, and excuse that, and you hear things like that later on within the scripture, you have to go back to the very beginning and understand what it is that the foundations they were built upon. As you move forward, and I just go back to the regular man one time, the first man, because he does not have a soul at all. So, not built into his physical, biological being. When you go into Genesis chapter 6, which is when it picks up again for the soulless man, uh, you begin to understand that these angels or these aliens or whatever people like to call them came down from a realm not their own, from a realm theirs into a realm not their own, and um, I guess the only way I could put it is that they are not built out of the same thing human beings are made out of. So if we're oxygen and iron and a little bit of sulfur and whatever, just hear what I'm saying, right? What if they're mercury? What if they're part gamma and all these other things, and they copulated and made a freak of nature? So the freak of nature doesn't have normal genetics either. Just pointing that out. With that said, you go back to Adam, man being created and having the breath of life breathed upon his body and having a living soul and being the first man made to cultivate, made to tend, first gardener, per se. I'm not sure how long he gardened or what he gardened, per se, because that's not actually dictated. Um, what is dictated, though, is that it was not fit for him to be alone. Now, for one to be alone, as opposed to lone, that was covered in the last video, is that there is an idea that one had always been by themselves. There was always only self. And then the other one was a person rendered by themselves due to their party leaving or however it goes. So, with that said, the man was not supposed to, it was not good for man to be alone. They tried to make a help meet for him. Hold on, they made animals. The man did not want an animal because he didn't think there was one that was like himself. So, he was put into a trance. The first ever clone was created, her name being Eve. Um, with that said, we could easily deduce that the Most High did a very complicated medical procedure that the heathen seek to reproduce and copy to this day. With that said, when this man copulated with this woman later on, and I'm going to skip the fact that they fell from glory, and I have to cover this. When this man copulated with this woman, they had two sons. Neither one of the sons are ever made to have mentioned to look like the man. The reason why this is important is because people claim that the serpent that deceived the woman, who by way of deceiving the woman deceives the man because the man is mentioning to having been with her. The man knew better of the instructions, so if the woman was deceived, then the man was deceived because he hearkened to the voice of his wife. So, I figure when I touch on things about that later, it'll be understood. But get this, when they fall from glory, the man is only told that for all his days he shall eat his bread in sorrow. So, if thorns and thistles are for that man, and no time given for his life, yet in Genesis chapter 6, when the flesh was corrupted of the original man, the first man, he was given 120 years, them giants. So, why is it not believable, not tangible, in an effort of thought, to think that first, maybe not every single bloodline of man was tainted, but the fact that the bloodline of man, period, was tainted, that made man tainted. So when one animal from when one of every species became tainted, it tainted it all because they would interact and mingle with what? Their people. So just the woman having been copulated with the angel, and the radiation that was permeating off of his body is not permeating off of her body. And if she's not totally isolated, then I mean, she's around all these people, radiating them, corrupting their flesh. I mean, these are small things. Once again, I explained it to a friend of mine like nanite technology. Does that make more sense now? Radiation, in a sense, all that stuff is. This is what nanite technology is supposed to copy, like fumes and things like that. They want it to be so small that you can't detect it, and it can be carrying anything. So it's you have to think about these chemicals that were on this planet with more. I mean, more like a technology than just a chemical on the. It's deeper than that. It serves a function and a purpose. So with that said, um, when the fall of glory happens, and this man and this woman leave from the garden, and their sons are born, and one is a tiller of the ground, making him a little stronger than his brother who tends to the herd or the animals, I would naturally think in my mind. So when they brought forth their offerings, and the brother with the produce didn't bring forth the fruit and herb platter of of a lifetime, a one in a lifetime shebang. This is for the Most High, and it seems as if Abel understood that, and that's what Abel was awarded for. But Cain killed his brother because he could not bear with the fact that he was going to be rewarded for his wrongdoing. So the fact that their parents had ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they actually did have built-in biological understanding. Not that they knew everything, but there were certain things that are and were in inherent knowledge, or so were and are, excuse me. Um, this is why people get that feeling within their body, because it just doesn't feel right. You know, it doesn't feel right. But anyhow, so you move forward. Cain rises up against his brother and he kills him. And Cain has children. Uh, Jobel, Jubal, Malalil, Methuselah, um, Gadad, Lamech, Enoch. Can't think of the other ones right now off the top of my head. I just don't want to go back and read it. I just want to talk to you. And anyhow, the children, because I've read it in the videos, if you listen, they are the inventors of all these things. They are the initial recipients of the knowledge of the fallen. When Cain went and builded the city, the question is for everybody. I want y'all to ask, riddle me this. Who taught Cain how to build a city? Who taught Cain masonry and all that shit? Excuse my language. All right. So these are questions that I now ask myself, so that way I'm like, right, if I mean, we once again we can't get so caught up in in and everything else that we forget to go back to the most basic foundation. This is where it's all happening at. I'm not saying that I could ever truly understand Genesis, but I'm like, if you have a strong grasp in your faith that this is what happened, because this is logical. It does. It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense, scientifically or whatever you want to call it. So, um, when you have these people, right, like Tobel, who was a smith and a manufacturer, right, of both brass and iron, right? When you have that kind of guy, and that's in Genesis 4, 22. So the whole thing is this, is that once I read this part to you, and the genealogy of men, right? And this is the genealogy of men. In the day which God made Adam, in the image of God he made him. Male and female he made them and blessed them. One moment. So you don't read about it like that with Eve being made. Right on. That's not how it happens. You don't actually hear about Adam being created in the image of the Most High. In my mind, it was a protective measure for the planet, obviously. If his first creation was created and it became a tainted creation, right, where it's no longer in the image of the Most High because it's tainted. But why would I let a seed of people who weren't tainted, right, and some of them are still supposed to be kind of pure, why would I let a people like that become a tainted people? wrist is acting up. Body's just breaking down. Just don't know. Hurting. Work a lot. Done a whole lot of work since I was a young person. So, my body has aches certain days. That's why, once again, when I say that's why I medicate, that is why I medicate. Anyhow, and it says that Adam lived 230 years and begot his son after his own form and after his own image. He called his name Seth. So, Seth is the son that looks just like Adam. And when we carry on, because I'm going to skip forward again, I had to do all that just to read that to you, right? I'm not going to go into how that first woman that you just heard about was not Eve, and how that is perceivably Lilith, and how her name was Adam and not Lilith before, if you actually read it and understood what it just said. I just told y'all the last video that there's a symbol by the name his, and it means there, right? Right. So I call both named Adam. So I call both of them Adam, essentially, man and woman. That's right. So Lilith or whatever, or Adam too, as I said, was a woman who could cognitively reason as a man. No, this is hard to believe, but this is true. We skip forward a few things just because it's just the bloodline of a man who obviously comes from people with soul constitution, and so that way we understand that is a soul constitution bloodline on the planet, and that's a soul constitution bloodline that begat the life afterwards. But the thing is that soul constitution and non-soul constitution being made the children that would carry on the life, right? And then the children who were from the soul constitution, and I don't know how you would call it, because the angels gave some of those things souls, and then some of those things went on that had children that looked regular. So they had the spirit upon them, but they could only live 120 years. So understand, it's not a regular soul. So you have those kind of babies, having babies with people who probably are like that or just have no soul, right? And then that's who we are now today. We're so watered down, it's crazy. Nobody wants to hear that, but I'm telling y'all what it is. See, I'm only good for 5 of them. So we had to all get all the way here just to hear all that. Don't worry. I'm going to talk about how people can actually withstand radiation now, especially black people, and all other cultures that have been introduced to radiation for a long time. See, certain cultures won't tell you, but like that's what it is that those gods or whatever were bringing to them and giving to them that they have the powers with and stuff. Man, I'm telling y'all, man, it's about to blow your mind. Moses was radiated. Joshua was radiated. The 70 people who took the one spirit that the Most High placed over Moses before Moses said, I couldn't take it no more, were all radiated. If they're radiated, you got to think about what I was just talking about before with the freaking angels coming down here, having children and with people, and just being in contact with the people that they copulated with. So being in contact with somebody who was in direct contact with the spirit of the Most High, right on, how that, man, I'm about to break it down. I'm about to break it all the way down. But you got to be willing to take it, though. And you got to take it with a grain of salt. I don't know everything. But I do know that I don't know nothing. So as we carry on and we get to the flood and through it, this next part that we're about to be getting into is I'm going to cover again this whole. I might just do a spiritual gumbo on it and touch up, young Hamski, because I don't like how Ham did Noah. It's not right, and I think it should be addressed. And I think when we hear it, it'll make more sense. It'll be like, oh wow, that's why it would pass a statute like that. You know what I'm saying? And you got to think about the bloodline of the people who are practicing this and who they come from and who I'm accusing of doing this. Excuse me. Does it not make sense? I want you to think about this. It's like a level of honor, right on, and it's gonna boggle a lot of people's minds. But if a man was willing to humble and sleep with his father, what would he not sleep with? That's just a little brain teaser. Mull that over. Mull that over. Right on. I hope this was a nice review. Hope it was a cool little overview. Scooby snack time, since you've been so patient. Let me read something to you. This is 1 Timothy chapter 2. And I will give you something to think about. In like manner also, this is verse 9. In like manner also that women adorn themselves in modest apparel, with shamefacedness and sobriety, not with broidered hair or gold or pearls or costly array. But, this is in parentheses, which becometh women professing godliness, out of parentheses, with good works. Let the woman learn in silence with all subjection. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence. Let me go ahead and say one thing about that actually goes against. One, if you're a Hebrew Israelite man and you are under the curses of your God, that goes against a woman ruling over you and a child oppressing you. Number one. Number two, when I'm about to say right now about Adam, he's telling a lie. So listen. Verse 13. For Adam was first formed, then Eve. That's true, obviously. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in transgression. Notwithstanding, she shall be saved in childbearing, if they continue in faith and charity and holiness with sobriety. The childbearing wasn't supposed to be painful, and the Most High made it painful as a recompense. Right on. That's all. And I'm not sure if Adam and Eve were ever supposed to have children, per se. They're not just supposed to just live forever and kick it. So, who knows? I won't even get carried away on all that. What I will say is this. He just tried to say that Adam wasn't deceived. Yet, we all know that Adam listened to his woman. How is that not being deceived? Like what? So what is that? Is that complicit? Is that is that not worse than being deceived? Just a little bit? Right? Am I tripping? Am I tripping? Somebody let me know, am I tripping though? Because it's just backwards. And if y'all listen to what he just said, he said Adam was first formed, then Eve. I just read it to you out of Genesis chapter 5, verse 1. It said that God, and the day that God made Adam, you know what I'm saying? He made male and female. He made them, Come on. Talking about him, Adam was made in the image of God when clearly he wasn't, as a protection measure, because it goes against the logic of the Most High saying that anybody who sees my face, any man who sees my face is going to die. No man shall see me and yet live. So it's illogical. At, at best, it's a fantasy, but it's just totally illogical. So, with that said, this has been review, overview, preview, whatever you want to call it. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. What I did want to hit on, though, for 1 second, for just another little part of your time, I know I'm taking up so much time, is stand off to the side and watch everything happen. Let the Most High guide your mind. I'm telling you, He's got you. If you just fall back and cry out to Him and just say, I just need some help, need some help, come and get me, please. I don't know which way is eastward where you're at, but you should look eastward, homeward, somewhere, not here, anywhere, not here. Just don't look here, but look towards where they say that we're supposed to be. That's what it says. If you set your face towards this place, and with all your heart, and with all your soul, but you have to repent. It's not just for you, it's for everybody who came before you, because you're alive, so you have the ability to speak that and to entice the Most High. Do you understand that? Do you really get it? The dead can't do it anymore. So it doesn't matter if there was any kind of information anyway in the darkness, in the void. What do they know? They're dead. They can't entice me anymore. They're gone. And some of them are destined and doomed for a place you don't want to be in. Anyhow, y'all, it's been nice. We're about to get ready to do this next one pretty soon. I've already started the other project, don't worry. But I just wanted to do this. I know this is forever, but I'm pretty picky. And things come together for me the weirdest ways. It's like when I sit around and I kind of wait for it to happen. Like, I learn things from people. A lot of things happen. So I kind of just do what my mind says to do. I follow my first mind, my first instincts, and that's how I do things. I don't ever mean to lie to nobody. That's why I try to keep y'all informed. But I'm living life. The struggle is real. Thank you very much. Love you guys. You take it easy. Have a blessed week. Do your best to stay out the way. Return to our God. Seek His face. Cry out to Him. Say you're sorry.